Harper Audio presents Time Management for Dummies, written and read by Jeffrey Mayer. My name is Jeffrey Mayer, and I'm the author of the best-selling book, Time Management for Dummies. For a living, I help busy people get organized, save time, and make more money. My claim to fame is transforming an office that looks like a toxic waste dump, with piles of paper everywhere, into something that resembles the flight deck of an aircraft carrier. For this feat of magic, I'm paid more than $1,000 for each desk that I overhaul. USA Today dubbed me Mr. Neat, the Clutterbuster. People magazine calls me the power desk cleaner to corporate America, and the Chicago Tribune refers to me as the world's most expensive maid. If you're like most people, you'd never have enough time to get everything done at the office. You're working harder and you're working longer, but you still don't feel as though you're making any headway. So you come in early, you stay late, you work weekends, and when you finally get home at the end of a long day, you're so worn out that you don't have any time or energy left for yourself, your friends, or your family. The time management techniques that worked so well for you in the 80s just don't work anymore. To succeed in the 21st century, you've got to do more than just get organized. You've got to do a better job of staying on top of all your unfinished work, tasks, and projects. And you accomplish this goal by improving your follow-up systems. With an efficient and effective follow-up system, you can convert the time that's wasted during the course of a normal business day into time that can be used more efficiently, effectively, and profitably. In today's highly competitive business environment, working additional hours doesn't guarantee that your business will be more successful or that your career will prosper. The only way that you can be successful today is to become more productive, efficient, and effective, not just busy. When productivity increases, the quality of your work improves, you get things done on time, and best of all, you accomplish more tasks with less effort. The company makes more money, and so do you. Studies have also shown that working long hours leads to burnout, increased stress and tension on the job, and additional pressures at home. Today, people need to measure and balance the requirements at work with those of their personal and family life. Let me tell you a story. All work and no play almost makes Frank a dead man. Early in my career, I knew a man who worked in sales for a major life insurance company. As a new agent, he sold a phenomenal amount of life insurance and was held up as the model agent. This was a typical workday for Frank. Each morning, he'd get up at 5 a.m. and have one or maybe two appointments before he got to the office. Then he'd work a full day, and after dinner, he'd have one or two additional appointments. Many evenings, he didn't get home before midnight. He even worked on weekends. One day, he was giving a speech to a group of fellow agents and collapsed in front of the group. He spent the next week under his doctor's care. The doctor's diagnosis was that he was suffering from exhaustion. Frank learned the hard lesson that when you burn the candle from both ends, sooner or later the candle may burn out. Before you're ever going to be more productive, you need to get organized. You probably don't realize it, but most people waste almost an hour a day looking for papers that are lost on the top of their desks. 60% of which aren't even needed. So that's where I think we should start, with the top of the desk. Your goal isn't to have a nice, neat, orderly desk. The desk is secondary. Your goal is to get organized so that you can convert the time that's wasted during the course of a normal business day into time that can be used more effectively and efficiently. You should be able to organize your desk in about 2 hours' time, so turn off the phone and close the door if you're lucky enough to have one, so that you won't be interrupted, and don't forget to bring a dumpster. The first step in getting organized is to separate the wheat from the chaff. So go through all the papers on your desk, one piece at a time. If a piece of paper is important, put it in a keeper pile for the time being. If it belongs to someone else, create a pile of things to give to your colleagues or coworkers. If you don't need it any longer, throw it away, or put it in the recycling bin. If you're finding it difficult to part with some of your files or other papers at this time, just take them off your desk and put them in one of the drawers in your filing cabinet. This way you've got the best of both worlds. If you need the materials at some future time, you know where to find them, and if you find that you don't need them, then you can throw them out in 6 months. Now, go through your keeper pile one piece of paper at a time. If there's work to do, note it on a master list, which is a things-to-do list that's written on a big piece of paper. If you no longer need a particular piece of paper, throw it away. If you do need it, put it in a properly labeled file folder and file it away. If a folder doesn't exist, create one. Now that you've gone through everything on your desk, continue the same process by going through the piles that have accumulated on your credenza, floor, and everywhere else. While you're going through these papers, your objective is to sift, sort, and catalog each one of them. Don't allow yourself to get sidetracked from the task at hand. When you come across a note for a phone call that you were supposed to have returned sometime last week, don't drop everything to make the call. Just note it on your master list and keep going. You're going through your piles one piece of paper at a time so that you can create a list of everything that you need to do. Once you've organized the papers on your desktop, you need to set up an easy-to-use filing system. The following tips were taken from my best-selling book, If You Haven't Got the Time to Do It Right, When Will You Find the Time to Do It Over? Instead of leaving letters, memos, reports, and other papers lying on the top of your desk, put them in file folders. To make it easy to see the labels on your folders, collate them left, center, and right so that you can see 3 labels at once. Keep a supply of file folders in your desk drawer, and when you need one, just pull it out and write the label with a fine-tipped pen. Don't waste your valuable time trying to type a gummed label with a typewriter. If you do want typed labels, you should go out and purchase a Seiko Smart Label Printer Pro. The SLP Printer Pro attaches to the serial port of your computer and prints labels from a roll one at a time instead of from a sheet. Seiko's toll-free number is 800-888-0817. When you're writing labels for the names of people, they should be written just like you would see them in the telephone directory. Last name, first name, middle initial. Files that you use all the time should be placed at the front of the drawer so they're easy to get to. Files you use less frequently can be placed behind them. Other files that you need to keep but won't look at very often should be placed in the drawers of your credenza, in other filing cabinets in the office, or in permanent off-site storage. After you set up your filing system, get into the habit of working from files so that you can have facts at your fingertips instead of having to rely on your memory. The practice of taking detailed notes, especially of your telephone conversations and meetings, is a very good one. But when you don't place your notes inside a file folder, along with all the other materials on a specific subject or topic, there's the possibility that when you've got to make a business decision, you may not remember that you have this information. So when you take notes, place the paper in the appropriate file so that you can find it when you need it. And if there's work to do, note it on your master list. Always date your papers. Every time you write something on a piece of paper, you should always put a date on it. This way you can see where things fell chronologically. Records of phone conversations and meetings become useless when you can't remember when they took place. Here are my thoughts on dealing with reading materials. As an alternative to having stacks of newspapers, magazines, and trade journals lying around, why don't you set up a reading file for yourself? When you receive a magazine, quickly skim the table of contents. And if you see an article that you think may be of interest, rip the pages out of the magazine and throw the rest of it away. Then, just put the article in a reading file that you can take with you on your next business trip. Do the same thing with your newspapers. Scan the paper quickly, and if you find an article that's of interest, rip out the page, put the article in a reading file, and throw the rest of the paper away. And whenever you're reading anything, a letter, report, memo, newspaper, or magazine, always have a pen nearby so that you can circle or highlight any words, sentences, or phrases that you find of interest. You may also find it very helpful to write any thoughts, comments, or questions you may have in the margins. This way, you won't have to reread the material when you pick it up a week, a month, or a year later. With the important information highlighted, you'll know in an instant what it was that caught your eye at the very moment you read the material. After you've cleaned off the top of your desk, you may want to tackle the drawers inside your desk. This task would include both the drawer that's designed to store your files, the smaller drawers, and the lap drawer. And finally, once you've organized your office, why not organize your briefcase? If there's work to do, note it on your master list and plan to do it during regular business hours. If you need to keep something, file it away. The rest should be pitched. Once you get organized, it's easy to stay organized, but it's going to take some work on your part. There's no avoiding the fact that every day you're going to continue to receive several inches of mail, email messages, voicemail messages, and a handful of faxes. All you've got to do is continue to add new items of business to your master list. Get into the habit of going through all of the things that have accumulated on your desk during the course of a normal business day, and you'll find that it's relatively easy to stay organized. Should you find that after a few busy or hectic days that things have backed up and stacked up on you, then just stop cold. Take a half hour to get yourself cleaned up and organized again. Your goal is to complete as much work as possible during normal business hours. When you go home at the end of the day, you've earned the right to relax and spend some quiet time with your family, your friends, and yourself. An efficient follow-up system is the key to being successful. If you want to become more efficient and effective, improve your ability to stay on top of all your unfinished work, tasks, projects, and correspondence, and be able to do your work faster and better, then all you've got to do is improve your follow-up systems. With an effective follow-up system, things just don't slip through the cracks. You're able to stay on top of your most important work, tasks, and projects. You get your work done on time, and you do it well, and you make it home for dinner. The basic concept behind using a master list is that by writing everything down in an orderly, meticulous way, you can do a better job of staying on top of all your unfinished work, tasks, projects, and correspondence. When you put things down on paper, you don't have to remember as many things. By using a master list to keep an itemized inventory of your unfinished work, you will have an organized and systematic format for maintaining control of your workload and your workday. Here are some tips for getting the most out of your master list. 1. Keep your master list on a big piece of paper. That way you've got 25 lines on a page with which to list your projects, tasks, and the other items of business that you must do or follow up on. 2. When you've used up all of the lines on the first page, don't be afraid to start a second one. It's common for most people to have a master list that's 1 or 2 pages in length. 3. The key to making your master list work for you is to transfer and consolidate the unfinished items of business from the older pages to the newest ones. As a general rule, when 50% of the items on a particular page have been completed, transfer the unfinished items one at a time to the newest page and cross them off the old page. After you've rewritten the unfinished items onto the newest page, take one last look at the old page just to see if you've missed anything before you throw it away, or put it in a file labeled Old Lists. 4. Throughout the day, you should scan the items on your master list to determine which item of business is the most important so you can determine which task you need to work on next. And 5. If you have a project that will take time, schedule a block of uninterrupted time on your calendar and think of it as an appointment with your boss or your most important client, because it is. I know that you've heard the old adage, you should only handle a piece of paper once, but that advice just doesn't work in the high-pressure business world of the 90s. The number of times you handle a piece of paper isn't important. What is important is that you make a decision about what you're going to do with that piece of paper. When something crosses your desk, make a decision now, instead of waiting to see what happens next. If there's work to do, it should be noted on your master list. If you need to keep it, file it away, and if you don't need it any longer, pass it on to someone else, put it in the recycling bin, or throw it away. Now I'd like to talk about how to plan your day. Before you go home at night, take a few minutes to review your master list to determine which items of business are most important so that you can plan to do them tomorrow. You can also use this time as an opportunity to plan your work for the future. What do you have to do during the next few days, next week, or next month? Use your master list as a planning tool so you can start on all of your work, tasks, and projects while you've got sufficient lead time. When you schedule your work, try to tackle your most important tasks as soon as you arrive in the morning, when you're fresh, alert, and energetic. You'll be amazed at how much you can accomplish when you get into the habit of working on your most important projects early in the day before the inevitable fires flare up. You must also realize that you're not going to complete each item on your master list every day. Your goal is to get to your important work, do it well, and get it done on time. Your master list is the tool that will help you stay focused on your most important tasks and projects and keep you in complete and total control. The master list is great for initially getting organized, but as you use it, you'll find that it has some shortcomings, the biggest of which is that it doesn't integrate with a calendar. That's why some people put their master list inside their daily planning book. A daily planner is designed to integrate your calendar, things-to-do list, call list, meetings, and appointments into one book that can help you stay on top of all your unfinished work, tasks, and projects. The basic concept behind the daily planner is that you use it to coordinate your list of things to do, your list of people to call, and your meetings and appointments with your calendar. You're no longer writing these lists of your unfinished work, tasks, and projects on a things-to-do list. You're writing them on a specific date in the daily planning book, a date when you think you can get to them. If you've been keeping track of all of your unfinished work, tasks, calls, and projects on a master list, the first thing you'll have to do is transfer the items onto the pages of your daily planner. If you haven't been keeping track of things with a master list, it's about time you started writing everything down and getting yourself organized. As you review your master list, ask yourself when you plan to get to each specific task and write it down on the day you expect to be able to get to it, start it, or complete it. When each item on your master list has been transferred, you can throw the list away. Throughout the day, new items of business will come up, and they should be entered immediately in your book on the day you plan to do them. Just because you were assigned a project this morning doesn't mean that it has to be entered on today's page of your daily planner. Maybe it should be entered on tomorrow's page or one day next week. The single most important part of keeping your daily planner up to date comes when you move the unfinished work from one day to another. Many times, when a day is ended, a person just turns the page of his or her daily planner without checking to make sure that everything that had been entered on that day had actually been done. To guarantee that nothing slips through the cracks, at the end of each day, go through the to-do items one at a time and move them to a future day. After you have moved each item, you should draw a line through it, and when all of the items have been moved, you should draw a big X across the page. By drawing a line from one corner of the page to another, you know that everything on that page has either been completed or moved forward. When you schedule your meetings or appointments, write them into your daily planner with a pencil, because half of all the appointments that you schedule will be rescheduled or postponed. Use a pen to write your to-do items and follow-ups into your book. pencils tend to smudge, and since you won't be erasing these items, you'll have a more permanent record of the things you did or need to do. If you're in the habit of writing people's names, phone numbers, or other information on the pages of your daily planner, you must transfer that information to your name and address book, Rolodex file, or database file. Otherwise, you may not be able to find a piece of information when you need it, or at the very least, it won't be at your fingertips. You will find that there are some limitations to using a daily planner based upon the simple fact that you're using a pencil and paper. I'm going to point out these shortcomings now, and then I'm going to explain why I think you should replace your paper-based personal organizer with a computerized contact manager. Today, it's easy to harness the power of your computer to help you stay on top of every task and project that crosses your desk. With a computerized contact manager, it's no longer necessary to write and rewrite the same information over and over again. You can spend your time doing your work instead of planning to do your work. As I've described previously, it takes a lot of work to keep a list of things to do up to date. We meticulously write down the names of various tasks, projects, or other items of business that need to be done on a specific day's page in our daily planning book. But if that item isn't done on the day it was entered, it must be moved to a future day. And if it's not moved, we run the risk of forgetting about it. A computerized contact manager solves this problem because an unfinished task is automatically moved forward at the beginning of each day. With a contact manager, it's easy to move items from your to-do list to your appointment calendar and back again because it's all done electronically. With just a few clicks of the mouse, you can have complete control of everything that's going on in your business life. A computerized calendar guarantees that you'll always have a true picture of your daily activities, your appointments, your calls, and your to-dos, because it's always up to date. Your assistant can have a printed copy of it on his or her desk, and when you leave the office, you take a printed copy with you. If your assistant has access to your computer, he or she can make changes to your calendar. If you're on a network, your assistant can access your calendar from another computer. When you keep your list of names and addresses inside your computer, it's easy to keep everything up to date. Whenever a number changes, you just make the change to the person's record. And with just a few clicks of the mouse, you can add additional people to your contact manager or remove them from the program. There are many good contact management programs available today, but I found the ACT, spelled capital A, capital C, capital T, exclamation point, contact management program, to be the best at keeping me on top of everything that's going on in both my business and personal life. ACT is made by Symantec and is available at your local computer store. Symantec's customer service number is 1-800-441-7234. For myself, I liked ACT so much that I've written both the ACT 2.0 for Windows for Dummies and the ACT 3.0 for Windows for Dummies books. And if that's not enough, I'm publishing a monthly ACT newsletter titled ACT in Action. If you would like a free 3-month trial subscription, fax me your name, address, and phone number. My fax number is 312-944-4184. If you're like most people, I'm sure that you do several different things during the course of a normal business day. You schedule appointments with many different people. You have follow-up work to do. You have joint projects that you're working on with other people. You keep detailed notes of your telephone conversations and/or face-to-face meetings, or at least you're supposed to. You spend a lot of time on the phone. You send out letters, faxes, proposals, and other correspondence throughout the day. Now you can manage all of these activities and tasks and more from inside your computer. You no longer need a master list, a daily planner, and a calendar to stay organized. Any piece of information about a person, project, or task that you used to keep as a note in a file folder, as a scrap of paper on your desk, or as a mental note in your head can now be kept in one place, inside ACT. ACT gives you a place to store the names, addresses, phone numbers, and lots of other information about your business and personal contacts. And ACT integrates that information with your list of things to do, your list of people to call, and your appointment calendar. Once you start using ACT, you'll find that fewer things slip through the cracks because everything's at your fingertips. You can use ACT to store such pieces of information as the names of a person's spouse and children, and the dates of their birthdays and anniversaries. And you can even use ACT to take notes of their hobbies, outside interests, favorite restaurants, and most recent vacations. You can store this information in addition to their mailing addresses, phone numbers, and the names and numbers of their assistants. So go through those business cards that have been gathering dust in the lap drawer of your desk and put the information inside ACT. Now you'll have a way to find these people when you need them. Each person in ACT has his or her own notepad on which you can keep detailed notes of your telephone conversations and face-to-face meetings, eliminating the need to write notes to yourself on sticky notes or little pieces of paper. Each time you open the notepad, the current date is automatically entered in the left-hand margin. All you have to do is type in the notes to yourself, and in just a few moments you're on to your next task. For ease of viewing, your previous entries are displayed in reverse chronological order. One of the features that makes ACT so powerful is its ability to group people in different categories based upon their business, profession, or any other criteria that you may select. You can then do a lookup of this group, and in a few moments you have a complete listing of everybody in that particular group. I do all of my own publicity and have set up categories for newspaper, magazine, radio, television, and so on. To date, I've stored the names of more than 1,000 newspaper, magazine, radio, television, and other media people in my database. With the lookup feature, I can do some amazing things with all this information. For example, in just a few seconds, I can create a list of the people who work for a radio station in Dallas and write for a newspaper in San Francisco. ACT has a built-in word processor that makes it easy for you to write letters and memos, and also to send email and faxes. Just select the person you want to communicate with and click the letter icon. The basic format of the document will be created in an instant. This format includes the date, the person's name and address, salutation, and closing. All you have to do is write the text. You can then print the document, fax the document, or send it as electronic mail. If you have some form letters that you send out regularly, you can use ACT's Mail Merge feature to merge the form letter template with a single person or group of people. ACT comes with pre-designed letter templates that can be easily modified so that you can create your own customized letters, memos, and faxes. And finally, if you love your daily planner and can't live without it, you can print information from any part of ACT on a variety of paper sizes, insert the pages in your favorite daily planner, and take it with you as you walk out the door. This feature allows you to have the best of both worlds, a computer program that keeps you on top of everything that's going on in your business life, and a paper-based program that you can take with you when you're away from the office. In this part of the tape, we focus on one goal, taking control of your workday, so that you can do the right job at the right time. Your workday shouldn't run you ragged. You should be the one dictating what goes on and when. If you're like most of the people who are working in corporate America, you've probably got too much to do and don't have enough time to get it all done. But as you look at your master list, I'm sure you'll see that some jobs are more important than others, and it's usually the important ones that are going to take up most of your time. You've got to be sure that you're doing the right job at the right time and that you're doing it right. It's not very difficult to stay focused, especially if you're using your master list or ACT to stay organized. First off, you need to sit down and analyze all the things you've got to do, your unfinished tasks, projects, and telephone calls. Then, All you have to do is make sure that you're spending your time on those activities that are of the highest priority, the ones that will have the biggest payoff for you and your company. If you're not in the habit of planning your day, don't be alarmed, because it's really easy to do. You see, planning is nothing more than identifying, organizing, and scheduling your work. You see, we get paid to complete our number one, big-ticket, high-priority items. And nobody really cares if or when the other stuff gets done. But this important stuff, if it's done right, can mean big bucks to the company. And for you, it can mean raises, bonuses, and promotions at the end of the year. I like the idea of separating thinking and planning from doing. And the more time you can spend thinking and planning your work, the easier it will be to do. So, as part of your daily planning, you should make it a point at the end of the day to review your master list to see what's on your agenda. You should also make it a point to sit down with your secretary, administrative assistant, or the other members of your organization for a few moments at the end of the day so that they know exactly what things they should be working on when they arrive in the morning. Here are a couple of important time-saving tips that you should jot down so you don't forget them. Maybe you've never given this much thought before, but have you ever noticed that there's a time of day when you have the most energy and enthusiasm, and your ability to concentrate is very high? I call it prime time, the time of day you're at your best. And if you're like most people, you're probably at your best the first thing in the morning. You're bright, alert, and ready to go. That's why you may even call yourself a morning person. So here's a nifty idea. Tackle your most important work at the time of day that you have the most energy and enthusiasm. When you're able to complete your important work early in the day, it's much easier to deal with the inevitable fires that flare up. Tied into that idea, have you ever thought of scheduling an appointment with yourself? I'm serious. You schedule appointments with everybody else. Your boss, your customers, your clients, your coworkers. Well, why not schedule an appointment with yourself so that you can get some of your important work done? So if you were to combine these ideas and give yourself the first 2 hours of the workday without any calls or interruptions, you'll find that you complete twice as much work in half the time with half the effort. For instance, let's take a look at that big file that's been sitting on the corner of your desk for a week. If I were to guess, I'd say it's there because you have to do some work on it. Well, if you want to guarantee that it gets done, why don't you schedule an appointment with yourself to do the work? Yes, actually write it down on your calendar and think of it as an appointment with your boss or your most important client. Now let me ask you a question. Have you ever started a project and just as you were getting to the good stuff, you ran out of time and had to go to a meeting? So here's an idea. When you start working on a task, ask yourself how long you think it will take and then expand that amount by at least 50%. This will help to ensure that once you start working on a project, you'll have enough time to complete it. When you were in school, did you have any friends who never opened a book, and then when it was time to prepare for a test, they would stay up all night and try to memorize enough material to pass the exam? I had a few friends who liked to pull all-nighters, and I even tried it myself a few times. But I eventually came to the conclusion that nothing was worth losing a night's sleep over. This is another way in which ACT can help you get your work done on time. You can use it to schedule your tasks and projects as soon as they are assigned to you. Then you can start working on them long before you need to be concerned about an approaching deadline. The goal is to have a great finished project, not a great first draft. So the more time you can spend thinking about and planning what it is you have to do before you begin doing it, the easier the work becomes.